from St. Teresa's Point, Chief Hartley Everett from Barons River First Nation, and Grand Chief Derek Nepanak from the Assembly of Manitoba Chiefs. First, we're going to have Chief McDougall speak first, and then Chief Everett, followed by Grand Chief.
Good morning. This is to like to welcome everybody here, and I'd like to acknowledge my council behind me, and also our MLA from our region, and also like to acknowledge my fellow chief and Grand Chief. First of all, I guess this press conference is was precipitated by the summary notice enforcement that we received, enforcement procedure from conservation from the province of Manitoba, telling us to halt all activities, to open the road from St. Teresa Point to Barons River. Now, in the last 3 years, we have opened the road on our own, with our own resources, from St. Teresa Point to Blood Bay. But this year, we have decided to also partner with Barons to open an existing road that was formerly constructed years ago for over half a century, and to use that right away, and to make it a shorter road to the new provincial all-weather road ending at Barons River. And so we were using, St. Teresa Point is using the winter road alignment that has been in existence for over half a century, with using the alignment as set out in the old winter road system that has since been arbitrarily closed by the province, and with the claim that we okayed, we authorized through agreeing to the alignment of the proposed all-weather road alignment coming from Norway House. But that was not the intent. The intent was to go on the original route with the winter road and construct the all-weather road simultaneously. Now, also, this is a trail that we're making to benefit our people, and there is no need for environmental assessment. And also, we want to have access to our traditional territory, use it however we please, as long as we don't. We are also stewards of our land, our traditional territory. We want to protect it, and we want to use it to benefit for our people, our generations to come as well. And within the treaty, we never agreed to I guess to forfeit our use of our land for our benefit. It was all intent and purpose of the treaty was for peaceful coexistence and to assist each other, the two nations, the European nation that came forward and our nation, mutual benefit from the land, and also for peaceful coexistence. And yet, this is not what's happening. One is forcing the other to behave in a certain way, which is very condescending, and also we have been assured by certain agents that they want to be interacting in a very respectful and with integrity manner, but it's not happening, and this is something that needs to be addressed. And also, I do have here a list of over 700 signatures. That's the support that we got from our people before we left the community. And it's 718 signatures to say that we don't want infringement on our rights. That this is an infringement on our right to self-determination, our right to self-government, our inherent right in the treaty and Aboriginal rights, as protected by treaty and also by the Constitution, Section 35. And I think we need to, in order to move forward and go forward with mitigation, I urge the government to rescind this order so you can go back to the table and discuss how we can work together. This is my opening statement. Thank you.
Welcome everybody. Thank Grand Chief for being here, the media, and all our supporters here. And as Chief Dougal said, our intent here isn't for the we open the road to have access to our traditional lands, our trappers, and we have people that use that road, and they have used that road for many years, and we have opened it in the past, and we haven't had any problems in the past, and then all of a sudden we had a stop work order that was given to us, which kind of surprised me, and and also what Chief McDougall has said, that we are willing to sit on a table with the province if they revoke the stop work order, and we can sit on a table and work with them for the future. And also that yeah, I guess that's all I can say right now. I can say a bit more, but I'll pass it down to Grand Chief.
Miigwech, good morning. I want to thank the media for coming out to this very important discussion that we're initiating. I was reminded yesterday from the eldest of the elders in the north, Sarah Harper, was around at treaty time, and she's still around. And she's reminded generations of our northern people that at the signing of treaty, there were many, many questions that were asked by the elders of the community and the leadership of the northern communities at that time. The communities at the time of treaty signed the agreement on good faith. The agreement was signed on good faith that the answers that were raised by the community members would be addressed by the commissioner in time. Almost 100 years later, there's still unanswered questions with respect to treaty. That means that any Crown assertion, any Crown authority that's being asserted in the north is not without its challenges. It means that the Indigenous people of the north have inherent rights, they have treaty rights to access their traditional territory. It was never agreed at treaty time that the northern people would stop accessing their traditional territory. It was never agreed upon that they would be landlocked on a reserve in a sea of Crown jurisdiction or Crown provincial jurisdiction. It was never agreed that that would be the case, but yet that is what we find the province trying to assert today in the northern communities. And I ask, what is the mischief behind this order by the province to stop Indigenous people from accessing their traditional lands? When we look at the multitude of challenges being faced by our northern communities and some of our isolated communities across the country, we have to put it into the context of how it's impacting our young people. What does it say when governments try to isolate communities of Indigenous people on their reserves? What does it say to our young people when they have to watch governments that operate here in the south trying to assert an authority over traditional access to lands in the north? What does that say to our culture? What does that say to our ability to socially gather from one community to the next if we don't have a right of access? What does it say about our right to trade, import and export goods in and of our communities at costs that reflect the reality of living in the north, instead of being prescribed policies by government that want roads built east-west to add increases to the cost of import and export and trade? That's not reasonable. It's not reasonable that people would try to assert an authority or a jurisdiction that they simply don't have over the northern people. You know, these legislators here in the gray building down the street can push paper across the boardroom table all they want, but they're not the ones living in the north. The northern people need to have access to their territories. They need to be able to hunt, they need to be able to trap, and they need to be able to leave the community in the north for social gathering. And it's their right to do that. And that's a right that cannot be impeded by anybody's jurisdiction. No Crown jurisdiction can prevent the northern people from living the way they want to in their communities and amongst their communities. So this is an insult. This piece of paper that they sent is an insult to the integrity of the northern communities that deserve to be respected. Their rights deserve to be respected. Constitutionally protected rights under Section 35 and rights that are guaranteed through a body of Aboriginal rights jurisprudence that's been built over the last 30 years in the Supreme Court of Canada. This provincial government had better wake up to its responsibility to start recognizing the rights of Indigenous people across the board, because it's getting ridiculous already. And there's going to be problems if they don't start to pay attention to what their constitutional responsibilities are and the rights of Indigenous people. Thank you.
I want to thank Grand Chief and the Chiefs for speaking. We'll now open the floor for questions and answers, if we have any.
How long is this road we're talking about?
The portion that's being constructed, I mean, by, on the, that we normally prepare for travel is about 178 kilometers. And from there to this other route, I don't know how.
The route from the junction from the Island Lake Winter Road to Barons is about 64 kilometers.
So you add those two together?
Yeah.
Okay. And typically, what do people use it for? Like, do they drive on it, or obviously, I'm just wondering, if it were to be gone, how would it affect the day-to-day life of the people on these two First Nations?
Well, first of all, the social interaction between the two communities will be from the south, like east side of Lake Winnipeg on the south part would be severed. And we'd have to go all the way around to Norway House and our brothers in Swampy Cree, but that's, which is no, I'm not taking anything away from them, but we interact with both. And also the direct connection, or the shorter connection to the urban center, business center of Winnipeg would be severed, and also we'd be, or like, would you like to travel, you know, 30 hours versus 10, 12 hours, right? So that's what we're talking about. So the map is there. Any other questions?
Can I
Sorry.
Oh, go ahead.
I had a question about, that I had called earlier about the night hunting issue, but I'll get that after everybody's done talking about this issue. I just want to let you know I do have a question. It's just, we're
I have a, that's okay.
No, we're just gonna stay on the topic that we're discussing right now. And so if we don't have any more questions, we'll close the press conference down.
Okay.
Thank you for coming out.
And so now we can
Yeah,
just.
a few minutes.
Yeah, okay, for sure.
Okay.